Chaim, you missed the days you worked there?
The other stock on it.
Was it good?
So let me just get these guys back on. Okay, anyway. Eruvin is again. There's a pasuk in Zechariah speaks about Eliyahu Navi showing up, on a donkey. It says comes as an ani. So we have a Messiah. The ani is Eruvin, Nida, and Yevamis. Those are the three Mesechtes that's going to bring Mashiach. I still remember my Rabbi said Eruvin goes, das is Mathematica. It's mathematics. He goes, Nida, das is fishes. It's physical. Yevamis, das is Takashver. That was hard. So I think, people are scared of Eruvin, and it's nothing to be scared about. It's just, you're going to see a lot of things, we repeat a lot of things. We have a good book. The book is very, very helpful, and it's not as daunting as people make it. So, but I will tell you one thing: you'll never make it up. This is the Masechta that makes you or break you. If you make it through Eruvin, you'll make it. If you don't make it through Eruvin, you miss a few daf in Shabbos, a few daf in brachas, you can make it up. Eruvin is tough to make up. So this is the bracha is, guys, make this, and then as Hashem should give us well, we're home free. Okay. It means think of Eruvin. It's exactly what does the word Eruv mean. The lashon is lashon of like Eruv Rav. It's lashon of mixture. It's lashon of mixture. There's three basically types of Eruvin. There's Eruv Chatzero, Eruv Tchumim, and Eruv Tavshilin. The one you're most famous was Eruv Tavshilin. That's the one that's an egg, right? Anyway, so that's the one that's the one that applies to blockers. That's right. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. I'm sorry, I can't mute him. I ignore him. I hear everything he says. I can't mute him. I'd like to mute him, but I can't. Right? Anyway, besides he's here and he's big. Anyway, sorry, he got bigger. Anyway, so Erev Tafshilin is that's Masechta Beitza. The second paragraph of Masechta Beitza, Bez Hashem will get there. Erev Techumim is later on. It's Masechta, but by and large, that we're going to deal with the beginning of Masechta is called an Erev Chatzeros. Now, this is very important. The Min HaTorah, Midaraisa, there are a few Rishuyos. Two Rishuyos, the Raisa, Rishus HaYachid, and Rishus HaRabin. Those are the two Rishuyos, the Raisa, Rishus HaYachid, and Rishus HaRabin. In Masechta Shabbos, we saw earlier on Masechtas, there's a place called the Carmelis and a place called the Mokum Pitur. Okay, we said if you take from a Rishus HaRabin to Rishus HaYachid, you have a Chal Shabbos, and you chayiv a Chatas B'Shogeg, and skila with Edom and Asro. So that's the din of Midaraisa. We saw in Masechta Shabbos that the din of Haitzah, first of all, the amount of mileage in Masechta, tremendous amount of blat discussing Haitzah. So many halachas discussing Haitzah. Because we said the first Taisus in Masechta Shabbos tells us Haitzah is a malacha gerua. It's a malacha that's very, very weak in a way. So we spoke about a Nazarua. It's a mitzvah to hear the Nazarua. But in the Lamites of this malachas, you physically change something. If you go through every single malacha, there's a change. You have a field growing, you cut it, you grind it. Everything along the way, you're making a change in something. Even in a deer that's captured. The deer is the same, but it's a captured deer. It's a different deer. There's a difference in a deer that's captured. If you have a lion here, it's a different than a lion in the cage in the zoo, right? It will be masculine. There's a difference in that lion. There's a difference in it. So, but by Haitzah, there's no change in the subject. It remains the same. So because it remains the same, it's a malacha that's very easy to be over with. And we saw that's why the Chachamim was so busy with it. Fellas, we just saw, again, within the last 30 block, we saw Nehemiah ben Chachalia. We saw Nehemiah ben Chachalia that he came to Eretz Yisrael and he found that everyone they were carrying stuff from Rishus HaRabim, and he asked everything muktzah, right? Muktzah, the time muktzah was because of, according to the Rabbi and the Mashal like the Gemara, was because of Haitzah. The whole din of muktzah was because of Haitzah. You shouldn't have to carry something. That concept of Haitzah and carrying in Shabbos is is morphed into in the Masechta Eruvin. Masechta Eruvin, that's what it's about. It's about the concept of Eruv Chatzeros and the problem of worrying about Chaitzah. So, if I'm going to take from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, I'm guilty. Good. In those days, the people lived in a very, very easy style. This is going to come out of your ears. They had houses, and in front of the houses there was a chutzner, and each chutzner came into a mavli. Midoraisa, it's all. There's nothing there is Rosh Hashanah. Nothing there is. It's all Rosh Hashanah. It's all your area. There should be no problem for you going out from your house into a chutzner. There is no problem. Midaraisa. There should be no problem going from a chutzner to a mavli, and the mavli emptied out into a Rosh Hashanah. There should be no problem with that. But there is, because the Chomer Geiza, if you'll go from your Rishus to another Rishus, you may come to go from Rishus Harabim to Rishus Hayachid. The whole reason for Eruvin is Gezerah because of Haitzah. You're worried about Haitzah. That's the concern. That's the concern. So what's the Eitzah? The Eitzah is Eruv Chatzeros. You go ahead. What do? We're basically making it one big property. We go ahead. We take a box of matzah. We take a Muslim shtei sudos. We put it in one house. If we all lived in the same cul-de-sac, we put it in one house. Now it's all like we live in that house. And now the chutzner in the house, we're all one place. That's not a problem because they were never geyser, one house, one chutzner. That they weren't geyser. So that's what an Eruv Chatzeros does. It's an Eruv, it's ma'ariv. All the people who live there, it makes us living together. Okay, that's one halacha. That's not what we're discussing now. Today we're going to discuss the halacha of a mavli. The halacha of a mavli. Now, we have our books. You could take a look at your book. Take a look at your book and go take a look at the picture of what it looks like. Right? It looks like you have first page. You're going to see. They're going to show you a picture of what we're looking at. Look on with the young fellow. We have a nice new camera right there. Be nice to him. Your uncle, be nice to the guy. What's your name? First name? Mordechai. Welcome. So be nice to Mordechai. We want to see him back for another day. Now, so Mordechai, you'll know you're part of the crew when they start making fun of you. Now, so, okay. Steve, take a picture, send it around. Let's go. I beat me to it already. Steve found out, by the way, that this free online. You think Mashiach came? He was so happy. He was so happy with it, right?
Great.
Okay, so take a look. Yeah. Okay, so you take a look at the picture. You'll see, first of all, you'll see the house. First of all, you'll see the house going to the chutzner, right? And then there's the mavli. The mavli empties out into the Rishus Harabim. The mavli empties out into the Rishus Harabim, and now we have a different concern. The mavli is a concern that you may think the mavli is a Rishus Harabim. And if we allow you to carry into a mavli, you may come to carry in a Rishus Harabim. In other words, it's not like a chutzner to a chutzner. It's not like the house to the chutzner. It's the mavli. If you allow you to carry a mavli, it's not so clear. It's not so clear that it's a mavli, that it's not a Rishus Harabim. So if you, a mavli is, again, if you notice, it's an open area, right? It's three walls. It's three walls emptying into a Rishus Harabim. So if we allow you to go ahead and carry there, you may come to carry into a Rishus Harabim. So what did the Chachamim do? What did the Chachamim do? They said we have to go ahead and make something to be talking to tell you that this is not a Rishus Harabim, that this is a Rishus Hayachid. Now, this we're going to see a lumdus over here, Be'ez Hashem. So today's daf is, how do you go ahead and take care of this mavli? How do you go ahead and be machshir a mavli to carry in the mavli on Shabbos? This alleyway, what are you going to do to allow you to carry it? And we're going to see two possibilities, and I'll show you a machloikis rishonim, a beautiful lumdus of what exactly is going on over here. So, and then the first daf is basically very easy, so you don't have to worry. Good, you'll do one daf and you can make a siyum. Okay, so let's do more right. Okay, let's begin. Atzlacha Rabbah to everybody. Okay, mavli. Yeah.
You gotta separate those two.
Yeah, I think Rabbi, it's better online. I can mute you. What? And then Zeli has a stern. Shalom Aleichem. Let's get more of us to them.
Let me tell you.
Okay, anyway. Okay, so here we go. Mavui shegavoya l'mayla mi'eser mama. You have a mavui that the top of the mavui is higher than 20. Now, guys, when I say 20 amas in halacha, what do you think about? You think about Hanukkah. You think about Hanukkah, you think about Sukkah. Very good. You think about Sukkah, you think about Hanukkah, because we know that above 20 amas, your eye is not shoylet. I once had a picture in my office. Somebody gave me a picture of me carrying my Sefer Torah. I gave enough Sefer Torah. Somebody walked in one day and goes, did anyone ever comment on the picture? I said, no. Why? You're the first one. He goes, because it's up there. It's not eye level. When you hang a picture, you have to hang it at a certain level. And I said, oh, that's shot. That it's not shoylet. Your eye is not shoylet on something above a certain area. So a movie where the beam across the mavoi, guys, we're going to see you need a beam across the mavoi. That beam is what permits you to carry in the mavoi. That beam, that lechi, we're going to see, but the beam is what lets you carry in the mavoi, right? What should you do? You have to go ahead and put it down. You have to make it less than 20 amis. Your eye will be able to see it. So therefore, in order to see it, you have to go ahead and lower it. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Ain't it tzarich?" Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to. This is Rabbi Yehuda l'shitasa, because Rabbi Yehuda holds in the sukkah that the sukkah, the wall that's higher, the staff that's higher than 20, is also good. It's also good. So again, that's the same thing over here. That's with the height. Now, the harachav me eser amos. If it's more than eser amos, then you mayit. You have to go ahead and diminish it. You have to make it less than eser amos. Then okay, this is a second in. I'm going to hold off on it. I'll just tell you briefly. I'm going to throw it out to you. Any rishus, you have to have an entrance into the rishus. It's called a pesach. You have a pesach. The chachamim took into account you have to be able to get into your property. But a wall is only considered a wall if it has a pesach. If it has a pirza, or what we call a breach, then it's not a wall. It's a pirza. It's not a pesach. It's not an opening. 10 amis is an opening. More than 10 is called a pirza. Then a pirza, that destroys the wall. And therefore, we're going to have to be metaking that. So that's the second halacha. So there's the halacha of the height. And again, we know in Sfara that your eye above a certain, does not gaze above a certain height. And this din of an opening, if it's open more than 10 amos, then it's not considered a pesach, it's considered a pirza. However, if you have a tzuras pesach, afa pishay rochev me eser amos, even if it's wider than eser amos, ain't sarch l'mayit, you don't have to l'mayit. Now, the biggest heter in Erev that we use is the concept of the tzuras pesach. You're all familiar with it. It's the post, and the thing going across the top. When you go ahead and see that people have poles in their property and the thing going across the top, that's a tzuras pesach. A tzuras pesach is deraisa. It's halachah l'moshe Sinai. And what the tzuras pesach does, it creates a wall. And therefore, if you have a wall, there's no pirza. Therefore, the pirza, that's 10 amas, the breach, which is 10 amas, is not problematic because of the tzuras pesach. But tremendous heter in Eruvin. But for now, we're going to deal with the halacha of the movi that's above of 20 amas. But let's just tell you a beautiful line that's over here. Let's see Rashi over here. I want to just do one line in Rashi. Okay, we see parallel to the first line of Gemara. It says the Kivin the Lav, one line above that. The Kivin the Lav Rishus Rabim, who, since the Mavoi, guys, it's not a Rishus Rabim, Shoyl to Tule Bey, you're able to carry in it. Minat Torah, Beli Shum Tikin. You don't have to do anything. As I told you, it's a full-fledged Rishus HaYachid. It's not a problem. For Rabbanan Gozer Lecha, Rabbanan Gozer, what was the Gezeirah, fellas? Mishum the Asi Lachlufe Rishus Rabim. You may mistakenly say, well, if I can carry here, I can carry in Rishus Rabim. So we have to go ahead and make some type of tikkun, some type of change, if you will, in the mavoi. Go ahead and make it different. I won't come to carry in Rishus Rabim. That's the whole reason behind it. Now, the shayur b'takanta, and it's permitted with the tikkun, the lechi, either the lechi or kaira. A lechi is a side post, or kaira or a beam. Says Rashi, the lahave hekera, that it should be recognizable, like lesi l'mishra Rishus Rabim Gemura, that you won't come to go ahead and make a Rishus Rabim Gemura. Now, there's a Gemara Vayter in Daf Ches, guys. How exactly does a lechi work, how a koira work? Does it work mitam heker or does it work mitam mechitza? I'll explain it. It's very, very nice lumbus. If I put a koira or a lechi according to Rashi for recognition, I'm not structurally, I'm looking at the winders. I'm not structurally doing anything different in the mavui. I'm making something that I could recognize that this, I can carry here, but I won't carry Rosh Hashanah. I haven't done anything like close a piazza. I haven't created an invisible wall. What have I done? I put something that I could recognize that this place is different. And therefore, I can carry here because it's different, but I can't carry Rosh Hashanah. Rashi clearly says, guys, what's the reason for the mavui? The kaira? He says, Mishum Hakera. It's nothing to do with structure, changing the structure of the mavui. You're just going ahead and putting something, a sign, that you recognize something, as long as you recognize it. The Rambam, when he brings down this halacha, he says the lashon of the Rambam is like this: "V'techshav oisa kaira, oisa lechi," and that kaira or lechi, ki'ilu sosam ruach revius. It's like it closes down the fourth wall. V'yaseh harishus hayachid v'imutl talta bakula. The Rambam says it's not because of Akera, it's not recognition. The Rambam learns it's a structural difference. What the Kaira does, or what the Lechi does, it makes the wall, it closes down the wall. It closes down the wall, it's considered closed. So you're making a structural difference. So, and we're going to see Nafkaminas in Allah and Nafches. But it's a very nice way of viewing, how do you view a Lechi? What does it accomplish? Does it accomplish it in a physical way, or does it accomplish it in a halachic way, right? According to Rashi, it's a halachic way, right? No structural difference. It's simply to remind you. According to Rambam, no, we're going to say good asik, that it goes good asik. It comes down. We're going to say it comes down. That is very structural. It's sosim. It makes the wall sosim. Exactly. Structural means you created a fourth wall.
What does the Kaira do?
Right? So the Kaira would say P yard decisive. Yeah, we'll see that it's considered, it goes across, that you consider, it cuts down, it's considered a wall, that you're making a wall. What? With your feet.
It was a structural difference.
What? Structural means you view it structural. Obviously.
Not that it's structural.
I didn't think we needed that. I mean, I haven't, invisible walls, we heard of invisible men, but Tiny, you ain't walking through nothing like that, let me tell you. Okay, so it's a very nice lumdus over here that I just wanted to share with you between Rashi and the Rambam. Okay? Yeah. 1 second, you were here.
I couldn't stay.
You couldn't stay? So I can't listen to you. Yes, what can I tell you? Yes, Mayor.
That's the machlokes between the Tanakh and Rabbi Yehuda.
Okay.
The Tanakh says that more than 20 amis, you have to lower it. It's a matter of recognition. You have to be able to recognize where it is. Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to. It's just a question of it's the structure.
We're going to see Daf Ches, Mayor. Wait till Daf Ches, okay?
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Stay on.
Okay. Oh, Joe Greenwald's here. Joe Greenwald is here. Huh?
Hey, Rabbi.
How are you, Joe?
Just drove in.
From where? You here?
I'm here.
Okay, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
Look who's here.
Hey, Ben.
It's like old timers day.
This is it. See this?
Very nice.
You found the Rambam yet?
Okay. Still with that Rambam. Okay, so guys, are good? You hear the difference between the Lechi like the Rambam and this one. Okay, now, we're going to contrast this Masechta with Masechta Sukkah. This Masechta that very few people learn, and Masechta Sukkah, for everyone knows the first Mishnah, right? Sukkah, now, says Gemara, Tan Hassam, we learned Sukkah, Shigavaya Lamaylam Yasamama. So I told you everything's not right. A Sukkah that's about as higher than 20 Amis, Psula, says it's puzzle. Right? Rabbi Yehuda Machshir, Maishla Gabi Sukkah, the 20 Psula. What's the difference by Sukkah where we learned the lesson puzzle? The Gabi Mabi, 20 Takanta. We didn't say a Mabi that's higher than 20 is puzzle. We said a Mabi that's higher than 20, you might. Go ahead and put it down. And we go ahead and tell us by what? By Sukkah, Why? By sukkah says it's possible. So either by sukkah tell us the takana, or over here go ahead and just say it's possible. What's the distinction between the two? And for the Gemara, sukkah deraisa tani psula, mavi derabanan tani takanta. So I just want to do the other, right? You're telling me it didn't. I mean, the Raisa. Look at Rashi, guys. Beautiful Rashi. Says Rashi. Sukkah the time of the day the Raisa kidamin and Hasam miliman yed dorisechem. The time for Sukkah is biblical. In order that you should know, Doris should know that keeping Sukkah is a shafi. So you win Sukkah, correct? So is that no? So that's given. In other words, that's a given point. So Tani Psula. This has been around since the beginning of Judaism. Even though there are ways to go ahead and correct it, called Tamid Limit Takin Law, as long as it's not metakin, it's possible. Let's see the contrast, and I'll explain it to you. However, continues Rashi, Mavui, the Chol Ikvid Rabbananu. Over here, you're beginning to tell us and all the laws. No one's told us anything. The listening and loy also came possible. In other words, fellas, when you opened up Masechta Sukkah and you said Sukkah she gavoya meitna. Now, would I have to give you a hakdama? Oh, by the way, fellas, there's something called a hut. And it has 3 walls, and that's good. And you can put little on top. You all know what a sukkah is. I don't have to tell you what a sukkah is. You know what a sukkah is. The halachas of sukkah was, you know from the Torah, there's a sukkah, right? So Memela, since you know it exists, it's possible to say, and this sukkah, if you don't do it right, it's possible. If you didn't open up Masechta Eruvin, would you know what a mavi is? So when you're seeing the word mavi for the first time, right? You don't know what it is. So now you're telling me there's such a thing. So as you're telling me that thing now, you're telling me the halacha of the thing now. You're telling me how to be metakin it. So it's not that one is deraisa, one derabbanan, one's mochama, one's mamekel. That's nothing to do with that. It has to do with one has been around for a while, and therefore, since you knew it, you just had to go ahead and tell me this thing that you knew about is possible. You're being introduced to this for the first time. You don't know this at all. You don't know what it is. So therefore, you're telling me this is it. This is it for the first time. This is the halacha. Yemayit, you go to Yemayit. That's the difference between the two. V'ibay yasema, the raisanami tani takanta. V'ibay yasema also you tell me takana. In other words, by sukkah, what should you tell me? El sukkah in a fisha mili, the sukkah which there were so many halachas there, pasuk for tani psula. We just made one statement. That's possible. Mavui deloina fisha mili, a mavui which does not have a lot of halachas, tani takanta. You just learn takana. Says Rashi. The Raisanami Tani Takanta, but Alma Mili Achrini, you do say it. The Nefikshi Mile, by Sukkah guys, the Tani Hasam, Ushain Lashalash Stefanos, a Sukkah Gavai me right, Sukkah higher than 20, right? And it doesn't have 3 walls. And Ushechamasa Meru Mitzilasa, and you have more sun than shade, right? So if you're going to get into a dialogue, what are you going to get? You're going to have to go through each one. You're going to have to say by Sukkah, by that's higher, make it lower. The one that you have, you 3 walls, it has 2 walls, you're going to have to build a 3rd wall. Oh, it has too much sun, put more schach on it. So we always want to speak in the Lashon Kitzara, very concise. So Memela, what do we say? Psula. Mashenkin over here, it's one shot deal. Mavoi, Takanta, Yemayit, boom. That's the difference between the two. Beautiful difference, right? Even the Rashi you tell me. So in other words, if there was only one din there, it only said the following: Sukkah shigavoila meyasem amma, it would have said Yemayit. But it doesn't only say that, because therefore what? They were very makatza. Therefore over here they were makatza, over there they were very makatza over there, speaking Lashon. Kaita. Amrav Yehuda Marav. Chachamim ludu al piska shel hekel. The Chachamim. Okay, take a look at your book for a second. It'll make things easier. There's a picture. You have to use the book because you spend money on it. Okay? Go take a look at the picture of the hekel in the ulam. We call out the numbers. Okay, in the Beis HaMikdash, fellas, there was the article calls it antechamber, an antechamber. We call it an ulam. And then you walked into it. You had the heichel and we call that the oil moed. The oil moed had doors, and if you when you went to oil moed, that's where you'd find the menorah, that's where you find Mizbeach Hazav, that's where you find the shulchan, that's where you find later on the Kodesh Kodashim. That's called the oil. That's called the oil moed, or what we call in Hebrew the heichel. The heichel. In front of that you have like a T, and that's called the ulam. The ulam was 40 by 20, and the other one was 20 by 10. So the Chacham who said that 20, they learned Pesach as Pesach HaHeichel. Their example of what a Pesach is the Heichel. Since the Heichel's dimensions were what? 20 by 10. Above 20, it's Nishkai Mat, Nishkai Pesach. Too high. Good. Says the Gemara. So this machloikis between them depends upon where do they learn a Pesach from. Chacham le'ludu el Pesach shel Heichel. Rabbi Yehuda le'lamdu el Pesach shel Ulam, which was 40. That nan Pesach shel Heichel givoya esem amma. The opening of the Heichel was 20 amas high. Urchavoi, and its width was eser amas, and its width was 10 amas. So it was 20 by 10, and that's exactly the dimensions we got. Correct? Anything that's higher than 20, anything that's wider than 10 is not a Pesach. The shel Ulam givoya arboya amma v'rach by eser amma. And this was the ratio 2 to 1. It was 40 by 20. And that's where Rabbi Yehuda learns that from. The Rabbi Yehuda says it can be higher than 20. Ushnei mikra echadashu. And they both dash in the same pasuk. It says, Ushechatoi Pesach oil moed. You should shech the korban shlamim by the Pesach of the oil moed. So guys, no, it doesn't say the oil moed. It says the Pesach of the oil moed. It's calling the oil moed a Pesach. And that's what we need. We need the word Pesach. We have to know what's considered an opening. And it's causing an area that's 20 by 10. It's called an opening. That's the opening. 20 by 10. That's the opening. The Bonan Sarvi, Kedushas Heichel Lechud, Ukedushas Ulam Lechud. 2 separate areas. So whatever Kedusha the Heichel has, the Kedusha the Ulam does not have. So Pesach Oil Moed means opening of the Heichel and only the Heichel, and not the Oil Moed. Therefore, the only dimensions that I care about for Pesach is Oil Moed, 20 by 10. The Chi Kesiv Pesach Oil Moed, a Heichel Kesiv. When it says the opening of the Oil Moed, that's the 20 by 10 of the Heichel. That's the sheet of the Chachamim. Rabbi Yehuda said, no, Heichel v'Ulam Kedusha Achasi. They're both Kaddish. The Chi Kesiv Pesach Oil Moed, Atravayahu Dechsiv. It's going on both. It's even going in the area that's 40 by 20. And Memela says, Rabbi Yehuda, a thing that's higher than 20 is Kasha. Because his Pesach Oil Moed's Kasha is also the Ulam. Since the Ulam is 40 by 20, you're not limited to a Pesach of 20, and therefore higher than 20 would be, as much as 40 would be what considered. Well, again, we'll see. I know a little bit. Okay, so again, this is, we want to say that, what do we try to get guys do? We want to say a Pesach. What's a Pesach? Opening. Okay, what's an opening? So, it says that very good. It says Pesach Oil Moed. Now, what is the Oil Moed? Let's fill in, fill in the blanks. Pesach, good. Oil Moed. What's considered Oil Moed? Says the Chachamim, the Oil Moed is the Heichel and only the Heichel. What's the Heichel? 20 by 10. Says the Chachamim, 1 second, Pesach Oil Moed. No, not only the Heichel, also the Ulam. Ulam was 40. So therefore, very good. So he therefore knew they got a larger expense. Says the Gemara. This is their source. V'baya Seima, another teretz. Rabbi Yehuda nami kedushas ulam lechud v'kedushas heichel lechud. So if that's the case, where does Rabbi Yehuda get the larger dimensions from? If he says the separate kedushas, then the Pesach oil moed should be only the oil moed, which is what, of course, the heichel. For hochaim the time of Rabbi Yehuda, dichsev el Pesach ulam habayis. It says the opening of the ulam habayis. So in other words, we see that the ulam is also called Pesach, and the ulam is the 40 by 20. Okay. Now, there's a little problem here. I'm just going to tell you there's a little problem here, okay? Here's the problem. Let's see Taisvis. Do not ask me any questions, okay? Look at Taisvis. Right? Says Taisvis, this pasuk does not exist. Says Taisvis, this pasuk does not exist. Guys, if Taisvis tells you the pasuk doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. There's a Maisa. There's a Meister with Rav Chaim, soll sein gesund stark. The Yosef Chaim, how come it says Moshe in the Torah? They told him a number. And they said, no, you're off by 1. He said, the computer checked it. And he said, you're off by one. He goes, that's not Moshe, that's Miseh. That wasn't Moshe, it's Miseh from a sheep. It wasn't named Moshe. It's the same letters, Mem Shin Hey, right? And the computer came out, and it was Moshe, right? Chaim said, no, you're missing the vote. It's not Mem Shin Hey, but it's Miseh. So saying, so when Chaim tells you, Moshe is the Tosis tells you there's no such pasuk, guys. There's no such pasuk, right? So the question is, what are we doing here? Anyway, so Tosis comes up with it. Why am I reading? It's a hybrid. Metzina dechsev ulam abayis ubekra achrina ksev pesach abayis. So they made it a cholent. They put it together. So therefore, okay, let's go weiter. Anyway, so Tosis is not such pasuk. El pesach ulam abayis. Bottom line is, according to this, the ulam is called a pesach, and therefore it could be up to what 40 and not limited to 20. Rabbanon, listen, Rabbanon guys have a good time tonight. If there was such a pasuk, yeah, it's good. Rabbanon, if it would say el pesach ulam, you'd be right. But hashdichsiv el pesach ulam habayis, it means pesach ulam habayis, habayis hapsuch ulam. What does it mean? The house that's open to the ulam, which is the heichal. The bayis, which is open to ulam, which is the heichal. So therefore, it's not them. Guys, when the pasuk said in the Torah, right? I just gave you dimensions of the Beis Hamikdash. The dimensions of the Mishkan were much smaller. It was 10 amas. So, and this is speaking about shechting the Pesach, right? Shechting the Shlomim in the Mishkan. So how can you tell me what? That it's 20, it's got to be 10. The Mishkan is 10 amas. It's the crushing guys with 10 amas. So that's, says, and for the Gemara, Ashkin Mishkan, the Ikri Migdash. We find the Mishkan is called Migdash. So therefore, since the Migdash is called Migdash, so very good. Pesach el Moyed, that applied to the Mishkan, and who didn't apply to the Migdash. Migdash Ikri Mishkan. This is extra credit. And we find Migdash is also, all we had to prove, guys, is the Migdash is called the Mishkan is called the Migdash, correct? That's all we had to prove. Now, in addition, Migdash Ikri Mishkan. If you don't say that the Migdash is called the Mishkan, or Mishkan is called Migdash, Hadam Rav Yehuda Mishmuel. Shlomim sheshchatan koidim psichas the lasais hahechel. The earliest times, you guys, you could bring a carbon is when the doors of the hechel were open. That'd be open. That's the earliest time you could bring. Shneamar b'shachtu pesach el moyed bizman shepetzuchem b'loy bizman she'neulam b'haki k'siv hahi b'mishkan k'siv. So in other words, this pasuk is speaking about Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel that a shlomim is only kasha when the doors are open, but by the Mishkan there weren't doors. So obviously it must be that it's synonymous, that the Mishkan and they're the same thing. Al ashkem migdash dekri Mishkan, or Mishkan dekri migdash. Abishlem migdash dekri Mishkan dechsev. Okay, it says v'nasati mishkani b'soichechem. I will give, future tense, guys. I will put my Mishkan among you. This is said to Klal Yisrael when the Mishkan was up. So guys, watch. They have the Mishkan, and what does Hashem tell them? And I in the future will give you a Mishkan. But they have a Mishkan. What do you mean I in the future will give you a Mishkan? They have a Mishkan. Eli, what do you see? That the Beis HaMikdash will be called Mishkan. Because it says in the future, I will give you a Mishkan. And they had the Mishkan. The Mishkan was already there. So what do you mean I will give you a Mishkan? If the Mishkan was already there, what do you mean I'll give you one? It must mean speaking about the Beis HaMikdash. So we see the Beis HaMikdash is called Mishkan. You see the Beis HaMikdash is called Mishkan. Maybe Mishkan is the top. Is a covering. No, but that's also there. Yankel was also there. It was also there. V'nasati, I will give you Mishkan b'seichechem. El Mishkan the Ikri Migdash Minalon. How do you know the Mishkan is called the Migdash? I know the Mishkan is called El Mishkan the Ikri Migdash Minalon. Ilayma midechsiv v'nasuk hakohasim nosei Migdash ikimas Mishkan ad boyam amid beis ahu ba'aron kasif. Guys, that's speaking about the Aron. They carried the Aron, and that's not speaking about the Mishkan. El mehacha v'asli Migdash v'shechati b'seicham. Right? Make for me a Migdash v'shechati b'seicham. That's speaking about what? The Mishkan. So what does it say? Make me a Migdash, which is going to be the Mishkan. So you see that the Mishkan is called the Migdash. Now, guys, good? Okay, so let's chazir. What do we have so far? We have two sources, right? We have the Chachamim saying a Movid can't be above 20. Pesach, from the learn Pesach of the Heichel, because the Heichel is the only thing that's Kaddish when it says Pesach Oil Moed. And we have the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda saying no, even higher than 20. We're going to see as much as 40, maybe even higher in that area, maybe such a large area. What's the reason? What's the reason? Is because they learned that the Ulam, they go after Pesach Ulam, either because it has the same Kedusha or because they have a pasuk that doesn't exist, Pesach Ulam, right? So that's the two sources. Now,
We think the width and height is interchangeable.
right now we're going with height, but with no 10 in
No, the 40 by 20 that's 40 high.
yeah, they're 40 high.
No, it shows in the picture.
Yeah, trust me,
No, the picture's wrong.
correct.
The picture shows 20 high.
It's 40 by 20. 20 across. It's a crossword puzzle. Yeah, what?
There's no such pasuk. Why get like
Again, there's the pasuk. There is a pasuk, but it's combined like that. Okay, so now Bein l'Rabbanan ubein l'Rab Yehuda, Bein l'Rabbanan, Bein l'Rabbanan, Bein l'Rab Yehuda, lilfu mi Pesach shara chotzer. Guys, all you guys are learning from. You straighten them out. Good.
Explain it.
It's the kahanim, the Yarim Mishpatachel Yaakov, the kahanim. Okay, guys, very geschmack, right? If I would show you a place that's called Pesach, that's smaller, so why are you jumping to the oil moed for Pesach? In other words, there's no special din of the oil moed. It's only that the oil moed defined for us what a Pesach is, correct? If I would show you another biblical source for Pesach, then we'd have to go ahead and correct ourselves. Maybe it's a different size. Good? So now, Fred the Gemara Kasha. Bein l'Rabbanan and Bein l'Rab Yehuda, lilfu Pesach. Let's learn from the Pesach Shara Chatzar. Again, going into the Mishkan, guys, there was an area. It was called the Chatzar. Now the area. Now what's the area? Because the Chsiv, Oirich HaChatzar, the length of the Chatzar, Meya Ba'ama, was 100 amas. The length. And here's what we need: the Rochav Chamishim b'Chamishim, and the width was 50. The koima and its height, chamesh meas, 5. That's it. 5 amas was the height. Uksiv, the chamesh esrei amma kelayim l'kasef. It says that there were 15 amas to the shoulder, 15 amas to the shoulder. Uksiv lichtei vashenis mizel uzel l'shara chatzar kelayim chamesh esrei amma. So now, guys, let's do the math. You have the width. If the whole width is 50. And you have each side, kosef, each shoulder going up to the door, 15. So you've just taken 30, right? 15 and 15. In other words, I'm over here. I got 15 on this side, 15 on this side. So the whole thing together is 50. So you got 20. 20 going across. Good. That's the width. What's the height? 5. What's the height? The height is 5. Right. So now, mala halan chamesh b'roichev esrim. Just like there, the opening was 5 by 20. Again, the 5 we know because it says openly 5, and the 20 we just figured out because it's 50 minus 30, right? Afkan, so too by the mavoi, fellas, chamesh b'roichev esrim, right? Pesach shar chatzah. Okay, so you got look at the picture. You get your money's worth. You got the pictures over there. You can see it. It's clearly that the chatzah over there. You have on your phones, right? Call out the number. Because again, the other pictures you're going to see. It's good. Okay. David, look at those pictures. Where's David says? Okay, so now. What?
French?
Edmonton's not French. Oh, by the way, just a quick, very silent chair from New York Rangers getting number 1 pick. Okay, weiter. Now, says the Gemara. Okay, the only team that I share with this guy over here. The only team, and they haven't won anything since. Anyway. Okay, so now, let's say, now it's 5 by 20. Afkan chamesh b'roichev esrim. And for the Gemara, why is it by 20 or 40 and not 5? Pesach shara chotzer ikri, Pesach stam lo ikri. That's called Pesach shar hachotzer. The Pesach of the shar of the chotzer. In other words, it's a surname. It's not just opening, right? It's a surname. Okay. V'ibay Yisema, Kiksiv Kalayim Chamesh Esrei Yama. When does it say 15 guys? L'kasef is Begavoyahu Defsiv. It's going on the height. Says, who misvas mizbeach ulamaila. Take a look at your picture. Right? Take a look at your picture. Yeah, nice picture there. I'll show you. They said the height was 5. Now you want to say the height's 15. How do you go ahead and account for that? Because it's 5 amas guys from the mizbeach, which was 10. It goes another 5 up from there. You see? You got the picture? We'll call out the number. 7, 8.
What is a?
Okay, so you see, guys, you see what I'm doing? Moish Cohen, you got to get yourself a Pirish Chai. It's on the phone. You got it. All right. You got the art scroll. That seems to be bad. It's not all the way around. Rabbi Yehuda, the Pischa Shel Ulam Gamar. Says the Gemara. says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, Pischa Shel Ulam Gamar. Okay, guys, enough with the pictures, okay? Back to learning Torah. I know you buy it for the office. Now, what? I don't mind, but again, I like
Whatever works.
What? Whatever works, guys. Whatever works. No, you see, again, it works. It works. The words sometimes are. Because we have no ADD people in share. We only have ADD people in share. You have to amend it. Says the Gemara. V'hadit nan. V'hadit nan. V'harechev me'eser ames yimayit. V'loi pligi Rabbi Yehuda. Fellas, Loi Rabbi Yehuda, the dimensions should not be 20. It should not be 40 by 20. They should be 20 by 10. They should be 40 by 20. In other words, you dealt with the height, but we're also going to deal, Yitzi, with the width. The width, according to Rabbi Yehuda, of the Ulam was 20. If he's going to learn from the Ulam, our Mishnah says what? What does our Mishnah say? 20, yes. Does Rabbi Yehuda argue on height? Yes. He says, you don't have to be mayit. But when it came to width, what did he say? Nothing. We said 10, you have to go ahead and make smaller. Rabbi Yehuda didn't argue. But 1 second. If he's learning out from the Ulam, he should make it smaller, fellas, because the Ulam is up to 20. He shouldn't have to make it smaller. It should be kasha. Just like he argued by height, he should argue by width. That's the Gemara's kasha. Let's see it inside. Fred the Gemara. The Mishnah says, if the width is 10, you should go ahead and make it smaller. Rabbi Yehuda, he doesn't argue, but if he learns from the Ulam, in fact, he should argue. If he learns from the Ulam, he should go ahead and say it's good. And for the Gemara, he does argue. Rabbi polig bebraisa, he argues in the Braisa. The Tanya was to say in the Braisa. If the opening is wider than 10, make it smaller. You don't have to make it smaller. He does argue. In the Braisa, he says, why don't you have to make it smaller? Because up to 20 is considered a Pesach. Argue in the Mishnah. Why do you only argue in the Braisa? Argue in the Mishnah. And for the Gemara, since he argues by 1, argues by 1. In other words, just like we knew that he argues by the height, we know he argues by the width, because obviously he has a different source than the Chachamim. They have a 20-10, so once he said, no, 20 is good, we knew that what? 10 is also good, because his dimensions are double. You're telling me he learns out from the opening of the Ulam, that he learns that what? That it's going to be 40 by 20, Vatanya, Mavi Shugavoya Mechaf Ama, a Mavi that's higher than 20 Amis, Yemayit, like our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Machshir, Ad Mem V'Nun. Rabbi Yehuda is Machshir from Mem till Nun. But 1 second. If he learns it out from the Heichel guys, you should be limited only till 40. You should never go beyond 40. Again, if the whole thing is 40, that's it. But he says 50. He says 50. Okay? Vitani Bar Kapara, Ad Meya, until 100. Abishleim Bakapara Guzva. Good Bakapara is being a little exaggerating a bit, right? It's exaggerating a bit. Right? Ella Rav Yehuda, my Guzva, Rav Yehuda. Guys, you don't say 40, 50. You say 40 or 50, that's not a Guzma. 40, 100, that's a Guzma. 40, 50, around 40, 50 is not. So in other words, if he's learning from the what? From the Ulam, you should be limited to 40. Where do you get 50 from? It's because of this kasha that we're going to change gears, guys. It's because of this question that we're going to have to find a different source for Rabbi Yehuda. You won't be able to use the Pesach of the Ulam because there you'll be limited to 40, and Yehuda clearly extends it beyond 40, right? He extends it beyond 40.
Where does he clear that he extends beyond 40?
None. Mem v'nun. Yeah, it says 50. It says 50. It says, El Rav Yehuda, my Guzma, Abishleim Rav Yehuda, Arboim Goma, Mipischa Shalulam. El Nun min Hale. What do you know, 50? So, Rav Chista, Hamasnisan Atise Rav. This brisa caused the Rav to make a mistake. And that this caused him to think that Rabbi Yehuda learns it from the Ulam. He thinks, the Tanya, the Mavri that's what, higher than 20, and it says openly more than the Pesach of the Heichel. We didn't have that in the Mishnah, right? We didn't have that in the Mishnah. More than the Pesach of the Heichel, you're telling us, where do you get the number 20 from? Pesach of the Heichel. What should you do? You might go ahead wide and diminish it. No, it's not. Now, what happened? So, guys, so clearly the Chachamim's reasoning is they learn from the Pesach of the Eichel. Good. Would you reason, therefore, Rabbi Yehuda argues he must learn from the Pesach of the Ulam? That was his mistake. We know it can't be the Pesach of the Ulam because he has 50, not 40. Right? He had an extra 10. If he learns from the Pesach of the Ulam, you should be limited to 40. Good. So mistakenly he thought if he said A, he must have said B. So therefore, that's Rav's mistake. Who savar the Rabbanim Pischa Shel Heichel Gamri? When the Rabbanim learned from the Pesach of the Heichel, Rabbi Yehuda Pischa Shel Ulam Gamar. Rabbi Yehuda learned from the Pesach of the Ulam. Veloihi, guys. Again, we just blew off a whole pot, right? Just when you understood it, the Gemara is the way you're doing that, right? Veloihi, right? It's not true. Rabbi Yehuda Pischa de Malkin Gamar. He learns from the Pischim of the Malkin Shleima. Melech, they're going to put up a structure. The Melech puts up a structure, right? And then they put a mural in front of it. Black Lives Matter. But they do put up such a structure, right? They put up something big. They put up something big. Anyway, Rabbanon. Okay, so guys, so good. So now we have them learning out from the Piskach of the Malkin, and therefore that gives us 50. For the Gemara of Rabbanon, Imi Piskach Shel Heichel Gamri, the boy Delosses Keheichel. Now we're switching gears. Everyone said that we learned from the Pesach. The Chachamim learned out from the El Moed. The El Moed had doors. The Mavi doesn't have doors. I just told you halacha that they shech the carbon with doors. El Moed had doors. You didn't. So friend, more great kasha. If you're telling me that what? If you're telling me that they learned from the Pesach of the El Moed, and we know the Oil Moed had doors, and the dimensions they give is what? They should have doors also. The Mavi should have doors also. How do you make a Mavi kosher to carry in the Mavi, guys? Both. You need both a lechi and a kaira. Lechi o kaira, either or. Right? So, Fred the Gemara, great kasha. Rabbi Chachamim. Who learned that from the Pesach of the Ulam, of the Heichel, just like the Heichel had doors, the should also have doors. And for the Gemara, the law says Heichel Litznias Ba'almahu Davida. The law says the Heichel, they were only made for the what? They were only made for what? For Tznias. In other words, for Tznias reasons. In other words, you didn't need that to create the halacha of a door, of a doorway. You didn't need that, right? You need it for Tznias Ba'alma that people shouldn't look in. But a Pesach was that, without that. So when it comes to privacy, you need doors. When it comes to Mavli, to carry, enough to be called a Pesach, that's all I need, right? It's called a Pesach even without the doors. It's called, it totally gets. El Me'ato like to Hani late Tzuras HaPesach. It should not help with Tzuras HaPesach for a Rachid that's more than 10. The Heichel Tzuras HaPesach Havilei, right? The Heichel had a Tzuras HaPesach, guys. In other words, I told you, Halach L'Mesh Misinai, a Tzuras HaPesach closes off a larger area than 10, right? the Heichel had a Tzuras of Pesach, right? And yet you're telling me what's the max width? 10. So if you're telling me the max width of a Pesach is a 10, and a Tzuras of Pesach, right, it closes up an area more than 10, why would you think it closes up more than 10? If your whole paradigm was the oil mayid, right, the Heichel, the Tzuras of Pesach there, and nonetheless, it was limited to 10. I feel lucky esa amis hu the revicha, right? I feel esa amis hu the revicha. Okay, Bez Hashem, we'll pick it up here tomorrow. Now you've been a kasha, man. Ratzon Kodesh Baruch Hu.